Hey everyone, welcome to the Panic Room. 8 to 10 minutes of pure panic during this COVID-19 lockdown. And it's Wednesday. That means it's the middle of the week. Does it feel like the middle of the week to you? What do you do during the middle of the week when there is no week, or it just seems all over the place? Dave, what have you been doing on a day that just seems like every other day?
Basically, I get up, I have my breakfast, I go and sit outside and read, and then I come in here and work during the morning. But I was thinking, I need to share with you something because I just thought this was, let's just see what you think of this. This is a very famous photo. Can you see that?
Yeah, I remember that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. No social distancing. I guess, yeah, the only social distance there is down, and that would be, that'd be anti-social distancing, I think.
There is a tendency, now this is not true of all police, but basically if you give politicians or police power, they tend to overuse it sometimes. So I'm thinking of the man in Brisbane who visited a dump, you know, a rubbish tip to put some stuff there, and he was fined $1,600 by the police until he pointed out to them that the dump was actually open and there was only one purpose for being there. And if the council had agreed for it to be open, then it was legitimate for him to be there.
So there's no other reason.
Find in Queensland, they're going crazy in Queensland for cycling on their own, you know, because that wasn't necessary exercise. So, but listen, I have been reading something. Do you want to ask me about it?
Okay, Dave, you say you're reading all the time. You're not watching Netflix. So what have you been reading?
Well, I have been watching Netflix as well. I've got two eyes, you know, I can multitask. I've got a feminine brain. So this is what I've been reading. It's called Phosphorescence by Julia Baird. So for the benefit of those who don't know who Julia Baird is, can you tell us?
Can I tell you? I just want to hear you say phosphorescence again in a Scottish accent.
Phosphorescence.
Phosphorescence. Hoots. Julia Baird is a writer and broadcaster in Sydney, from a fairly smart family. Her brother was the premier. So they're a smart family, and she's got a Christian perspective, and he was a Christian. But I would say that around their dinner table would be very interesting conversation. Tell me about Phosphorescence.
Well, I started off loving it because I loved her writing about nature. There were so many things that I could identify with in terms of, she spoke about how serious illness made her look again at life. She spoke about the need for joy. She spoke about all the things that you and I like to speak about as Christianity bringing. And then she went and blew it all up. Now, we've got very limited time. I've written a massive review for it that's on the Third Space website. But this is where it goes. This is what really depressed me. Not her rant about Sydney Anglicans and women, because I understand that that's a particular bugbear for her, and we can talk about that another time. But it was this. Let's see if you can work out why I was so depressed about this. She talks about the light within. And, you know, that's what we need to find. We need to find our light within and be guided by the light within. Why does that depress me?
Yes, David. It doesn't sound like a very Christian concept. I can't remember reading in the Bible too much about the aim is looking for the light within. Would that be somewhere in the ballpark of, because what's phosphorescence actually mean as a title?
Well, phosphorescence refers to sea creatures that glow in the sea, and apparently it's a phenomenon that's so worth seeing, which I'd love to see. So it's basically about light, and she's very keen on sea swimming, just as you're keen on running. Yeah, you're keen on running, she's keen on sea swimming, and I'm keen on talking about both. But she's, you know, the light within. What if the light within is darkness, as the Bible would say? What if you look and you don't find much light within? And what if it's false? You know, I really don't want to be looking in at myself. And I think for somebody who would struggle with depression, being told, look for the light within,
that could be unpastoral in that sense.
That's for me, that is pretty depressing. I mean, she does some good stuff to stay. I mean, here's one about what we're trying to do with the panic room. She obviously knew this. Let me read this. The importance of daily contact with people, the old-fashioned face-to-face kind, has been well documented by researchers, including American sociologist Robert Putnam, who lamented the decline in America of social organizations such as churches, unions, and community groups in his 1995 book, Bowling Alone, The Collapse and Revival of American Community. That's great, by the way, that book.
Yeah, it's true. And it's all, you can only bowl alone now anyway, Dave. So he was maybe a prophet.
Well, unless you're in Queensland, then you'd be arrested for bowling as unnecessary exercise, even if it was in your back garden.
So she can diagnose the issue. Is that what you're saying? But she's not actually giving the right solution?
I'm not even sure she diagnoses the issue. I mean, as the book went on, it got me more and more and more frustrated because she ended up with rather simplistic truisms. I mean, I'll give you another one here. Let me just, I mean, I could read you quotes all day, but I won't do that. With every day we walk on this earth, we must try to understand better and act to ensure that every person can feel fully human, equal and free. Now, first of all, a hearty amen to that.
Yep.
Do I hear an amen, brother?
Amen, brother.
Amen,
even the
amen.
Scottish accent. Yeah.
Amen, brother or sister, depending on how you're feeling today, how you identify today. We can feel fully human, equal and free. Here's the problem. How?
Yeah.
How are you going to get that equality and how are you going to get that freedom? What does Jesus say about freedom? There's a quiz for you.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's freedom doesn't come from within us because it says that we're bound, but that freedom is something that comes to us. And if you know Jesus, you'll be free indeed. The one whom the Son sets free, Jesus talked about himself, that someone needs to free you because you cannot free yourself. Yeah.
I mean, knowing Christ gives us ultimate freedom. I think that's really, really important. I think you played or you spoke of Johnny Cash's Hurt. Now, you do look like the kind of person who would know this, but I'm sure you are an aficionado of Leonard Skinner and their song Freebird.
I've heard of such songs.
You have heard of such songs. Well, what you do with Freebird is you lie down between two massive speakers and just let it blast your brain off. It's absolutely brilliant. But it talks about the inability to change. And I think Christ gives us that freedom. Incidentally, she judges people in the book for being judgmental, which is always a bugbear of mine. And she's dogmatic about being anti-dogmatic. And yet there's one sentence in which has accounted 8 different doctrines that she believes. And then goes on to say, I'm not dogmatic. But if you don't believe these, you're a scumbag. Well, that's not quite how she
doesn't quite say that.
So no, it's a paraphrase of 2 pages worth of that. But she's got a great word. I've got to tell you this word. Can you explain to our less erudite listeners? Can you tell them what Schadenfreude is?
Schadenfreude. I love Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is taking pleasure in the misfortune or demise of someone else. And it's a great German word. Only the Germans can come up with a word that takes a sentence to describe.
Yeah. Well, Julia taught me another word. It's Freudenfreude. Do you know what that is?
I do not know what Freudenfreude is, but you're going to explain it.
I am. Freudenfreude is what you and I have. When rather than rejoicing when somebody puts us down, we rejoice when someone lifts us up. So basically, instead of rejoicing at someone's misfortune, you rejoice at something good that's happening. I actually love that concept. I just thought it was a great idea.
That's a great idea.
It is a great idea. So we're going to do Freudenfreude. In fact, if we hadn't already got a name for this podcast, I think we'd call it the Freudenfreude podcast. But I'll be Freud and you can be Freud as well. And we'll do Freudenfreude.
Freudenfreude. It sounds like a dish that you'd have during Oktoberfest, but anyway.
Yeah. Steve, I'm going to go. We're going to go. Again, thank you to all of you who bothered to listen into this. Thank you to those of you who wrote me yesterday. A couple of people wrote. One woman said, I hadn't expected it to be quite so funny. And she was basically referring to parts that we didn't intend to be funny, but never mind. Whatever rocks your boat. I really, really, really hope that whoever you are, that God is blessing you where you are. And Steve is going to lead our discussion tomorrow. But Julia Baird, Phosphorescence, go onto the Third Space website and you'll get a full review.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow, folks, as we go out, we've got a special guest. We have someone who's going to come in and sing for us. We have Colin Buchanan coming on tomorrow to sing. If you remember Play School all those years back when Colin was on that, I certainly do. But he's going to be singing to us in the Third Space. So I expect some hearty responses to that. So see you tomorrow, folks.